Good morning, Quad Cities. I'm Devin Brooks. It's just before 9 o'clock, and here's what's making headlines. New this morning, Macomb Police Lieutenant Todd Tedrow is now the new police chief. Tedrow was serving as interim chief since October of 2025 following the retirement of former police chief Jeff Hamer. City leaders say he has provided steady leadership and direction for the department. Chief Tedrow has served with the department for nearly 17 years. He was sworn in at Monday night city council meeting.
And we're looking forward to at least a little filtered sunshine today as the clouds coming in. They'll be thick and thin at times. So with that in mind, we think temperatures will be a little bit warmer today, nudging their way into the upper 50s. Still frosty tonight as we drop to those chilly 30s. Tomorrow, a decent opportunity for a few scattered light rain showers, especially south of Interstate 80. Most of that activity will be focused around lunchtime, and then the remainder of the day dry with warmer temperatures in the 60s. Just about 5 minutes from now, Ask Andrew Live coming your way on the News 8 app, whether it's your smart TV that you're streaming on for free or your smartphone or WQAD.com. All three of those destinations will take you there. So come on in, bring your weather-related questions, and we'll chat about some weather in about 5 minutes. I'll see you there.
And still ahead on Good Morning Quad Cities at 11. Frustration is growing for some Iowans after a major push to limit the use of eminent domain failed at the State House. What happened and what it means for landowners along a proposed pipeline route.
And it's Wednesday, so my man Craig will be in the studio with us. The plant and garden expert will be answering all your blooming questions coming up at 11. In this small Italian alpine town, nightfall now comes with a powerful message of peace. Brixen, also known as Bressa 1, is growing or glowing with the Brixen Water Light Festival. Oh, that's interesting. Very pretty right there.
Yeah.
The 2026 theme is Imagine Peace with artists from 13 countries.
I know it's like take it all in. Need to put some nice
my gosh.
music,
Looks
with
like
it.
water.
Maybe
Good.
classical and meditate. Organizers say there are 24 light installations on buildings and town squares. In Cathedral Square, visitors can write on one display. And one visitor, Paul Penkola, left a note for his son who died in 2008. The festival started in 2017 and runs through May 16th.
Beautiful. Looks like maybe some kind of sand artwork there too. Wow.
Just think of the tourists and the experience that you can have. Probably just feels magical while you're there, an immersive type of experience.
I was like wiping my eyes when I saw the mermaid. I was like, whoa. I was like, that looks amazing.
Yeah,
trick.
yeah, spectacular view. But don't go too far. We have Ask Andrew Live coming up in just a few minutes here on the News 8 app.
And a good Wednesday morning, Quad Cities. It is Wednesday, May 5th. No, 6th. It's May 6th today. I know it is May. I just couldn't figure out what number it was. I am meteorologist Andrew Stutsky. It is so good to be back with you this week. A big thank you to Morgan, who was holding down the fort last week as I was doing a career fair at the Geneseo Middle School. Had a good time there, and I want to thank them for the invite. We have got a lot to talk about, as usual here, but nothing too crazy going on. We're enjoying a slightly calmer week weather-wise, but that doesn't mean it hasn't been busy. It certainly got a little rocking and rolling here on Monday. In fact, we'll queue up some video in a second here to show you from some of those storms coming up in just a moment. But first, welcome aboard. I hope this week has been treating you oh so well, and hopefully you're getting a little sunshine this morning. I know that's been hard to come by. So what we'll do is we do every week here. We'll go over the couple of questions that I went through this week. We'll talk about some long-range patterns, and we're also new this morning going to discuss some of the hurricane season statistics coming in. We already have one forecast in from Colorado State University, and we're waiting for NOAA's forecast, which will be coming out in the next few weeks. But overall, it's not some terribly bad news. There's some good news in it, and I'll go through that here in just a moment. Question-wise, we are simulcasting this as we always do between the News 8 app on your smart TV, your smartphone, WQAD.com. You're also getting this on our Facebook page as well. So if you have a question that you would like me to answer regarding the weather, you can go ahead and put it either in the Facebook chat or you can text our phone number, which we'll put at the bottom of your screen there, 309-304 and then 0888. The digital folks will grab that question, throw it in the chat, and then we'll be able to answer that for you pretty quickly. Let's start with what's going on here this morning right now, because we're trying oh so hard to get some sunshine in here. And that is something that we've really struggled with here the last couple of days. We've had all this cloud cover. Now, if you look at our Clinton camera, it does appear that we're finally starting to at least get these thinner clouds in here, allowing that sunshine to at least poke through it. And we're kind of seeing a similar thing on our Rock Falls camera as well. Prophetstown looked a little bit more thick in terms of the cloud cover there. You notice not much sunshine. So it's kind of the luck of the draw. We certainly had a chilly start this morning with temperatures in the 30s. I think we'll do that again tomorrow morning. But why are we getting all these clouds? Well, there's this active storm track sitting just to the south of us. We had this cold front move through on Monday that brought a couple of isolated severe storms. But there's all this energy and moisture kind of flowing just to the southwest or southwest and southeast of us where that jet stream is. And you can see there's some rain associated with that in downstate Illinois, also into parts of Kansas. That blow-off cloud cover from all that rain blowing in our direction is what is keeping things so darn cloudy around here. I will say, though, it looks like we're starting to at least thin out the clouds to the west of the Quad Cities. So you can see where the thicker clouds are. Illinois side, that's why our Prophetstown camera looked the way it did. But here to the west, some thinning of those clouds is already beginning to take place. We will remain rain-free today. However, tomorrow we're going to have to introduce a couple of scattered showers. Those will be arriving not really in the morning, but I would say right around lunchtime. This is Future Track at noon. You can see the coverage is very sparse, very isolated. So it is likely that most of you will stay dry tomorrow. As we get into the afternoon, a couple of those will linger well south of the Quad Cities, and then we'll go completely dry for tomorrow evening into most of the day on Friday as well. We took a sneak peek at the weekend because it is a big weekend. It's Mother's Day weekend, so all the moms out there, we're going to spoil them rotten, right? Hopefully that's what you've got planned. And there you see that Saturday will be the best of the weekend. Very summer-like, 80 degrees. It'll be a little breezy, but you'll get a lot of sunshine there. In fact, that'll be the brightest day this week that we'll be seeing. Now, we get into Sunday, we're still planning on an early morning shower. What does early morning mean? Well, let's find out. We'll go into Future Track here. You can see Saturday stays dry, but there's a weak system coming in the pre-dawn hours of Sunday. So right around 3, 4 o'clock is when those showers move in, and then they'll move out just before noon. So about 10, 11 in the morning is when those will move out, and the rest of our Sunday will stay dry. Not too bad there for Mother's Day. It's just the morning we have to watch out and dodge a couple of showers there. Here's what the next 8 days looks like, and we certainly are going to be getting warmer next week. I see a lot of days in the 70s, followed by a lot of days in the 80s heading into later next week, And there will be a couple of opportunities for some showers and some thunderstorms. I don't think we're going to see too much in terms of severe weather early next week, but perhaps later next week by the following weekend, that's when I think we could see the return of possibly some more active thunderstorms. And why is that? Well, I want to take you into the long-range temperature pattern here. We've talked about this consistent cooler air mass just kind of being stuck here and reinforcing itself. Well, as we move through time, you're going to notice that that cool air finally begins to kind of move eastward a little bit more. And by the time we get to the middle of the month here, this is Saturday the 16th, so a week from this upcoming weekend, you're noticing the warmth is starting to try and return a little bit. So you've got a little bit of a clash of the air masses going on here. All we need is just a dip in the jet stream further to the west, and that would set up your active storm track again. But it looks like that's going to be delayed a little bit, likely until we get to the middle to later part of May. And I know that's going to be a welcome break for the severe weather, from the severe weather, for not just you at home, but also for those of us meteorologists as well. It's been a very, very active start to the year in terms of severe weather. Let's talk about our topic for today. I think this was a fantastic question, and one that really had me thinking, really had to put the thinking cap on for this one. So here's what was asked of me this morning, and this was from Declan. He had asked, and I need to fix the spelling error in here, how do blizzards impact the biome, and can they change an environment forever? So if you're not familiar with what a biome is, think of a biome as an environment. So a biome example would be a forest, or a grassland, a grassy field, a river, a valley, a mountain hilltop. Those are biomes. So just different living environments where things live and do their thing there. So here's what I found, and based on my experience and what I know about weather, how you can have an impact from a blizzard. And I want to put the timeline of this in perspective. So in order to get a noticeable change in that environment, you need to have more than just one blizzard. You need to have multiple blizzards. So say, for example, we have a really active winter around here, and this could even happen in the Quad Cities, where we get maybe 2 or 3 blizzards, and they come in with some really strong wind and some really, really heavy snow. That can change the environment. How does it change it? Number one, think about the trees. We have a lot of trees around here. That heavy snow with that heavy wind can certainly cause tree damage, if not bring trees down. Probably the best example is the derecho we had several years ago, where we lost all these trees. That can change an environment. And in the example that I'm going to show you here, the environment we're changing is a forest. So if you get several back-to-back blizzards with that heavy snow causing heavy tree damage, look what happens to the forest. You start with the left-hand side, but if you go through all these blizzards back-to-back, or you have several years of very severe and harsh winters back-to-back, you can end up with a landscape that very much looks like what's on the right-hand side, where those trees have fallen. It's exposed the bed of the forest to sunshine, and some new species of plants can grow, like prairie grasses and smaller shrubs. So if you think about that, you're changing the landscape, but what else are you changing? You're changing the wildlife that occupies that landscape, because now their food source has changed. Their habitat has changed. The shelter has changed in that region. So this isn't something you see, again, with just one blizzard. It takes multiple events for this to happen, but it certainly is something that is an impact of significant winter storms. And again, the best thing I can think of locally that we would have seen would have been the derecho. Now, I haven't seen complete forests become completely smashed to bits in oblivion, but certainly if we were to have multiple derechos move through year after year after year, you could be dealing with a scenario like this, where you see big habitat destruction and some big changes to the animal landscape around here. So something to think about, some food for thought. It was a great question. Loved digging into it. The other question I had, too, had to deal with, when do we typically see our first 90s of the year? Because we are in May, after all, and it is something we're going to be thinking a lot more about here in the next several weeks. So breaking this down, the earliest 90 degree the Quad Cities has ever seen was back on April 10th of 1930. And I want you to remember the big event that happened in the 1930s. Remember the Dust Bowl? That was in the 1930s. And my goodness, if we had 90s already in April, no wonder we were in drought. That's insanely early. So early. What was the latest that we had 90s? That was back in 1884, September 8th. That year, we went nearly almost an entire summer without seeing a single 90-degree reading. That is also incredible. The average typical first 90-degree day here in the QC is June 5th, but I want you to look at this on the right-hand side of your screen. Here's the first 90-degree temperature that first day for roughly the last 6 to 7 years or so. And look at what all of those have in common except for 2 years. Every single year, that first 90-degree reading was during the month of May, except 2020 and 2021. Look at 2023, May 7th. Today's May 6th. Now, we're not going to hit 90 in the next week, I don't think, but still, it goes to show you, especially once you get to the middle part of May, game on. You can easily see your first 90-degree temperature. Now, I think for us, given the fact that we've been in this really active pattern, it's going to take a little bit more to get that first 90 in here. It's going to take, one, a super dry air mass that doesn't have much humidity or moisture attached to it, and two, you're going to have to see the topsoil dry out just a little bit more, because remember what we've discussed about how the ground situation impacts temperatures. If you've had a lot of rain lately and that ground is wet, that wetness of the ground absorbs a lot of heat energy coming from the sun, and it keeps your temperatures cooler. But if you haven't seen a lot of rain lately and that topsoil has dried out completely and there's no water for that sun's energy to hit, it's fair game to see much warmer temperatures than you would see otherwise. So that's what we have to watch in the next few weeks. We've caught up on rain. We had rain on Monday, so we're doing pretty good right now. But if we start drying out again, which is not anticipated, by the way, but if that were to happen, it makes the 90s much easier to achieve in the months ahead. All of those have been fantastic questions this week. Before we get to your questions, which you can load up in the chat right now, let's talk a little bit about hurricane season. Because there's going to be some big players in the game this year that could actually be quite a bit of good news when it comes to the risk of any landfalling storms, especially those folks that live along the southeast coast, whether it's the Atlantic coast or the Gulf Coast. This is going to be a big player in hurricane season this year. And what is that I'm talking about? I'm talking about El Nino, which is rapidly developing. And a reminder of what El Nino is. It is warmer than normal sea surface water temperatures off the western coast of South America. We watch this zone right here for water that is rapidly warming, and it is doing that. You can see the reds here, while they're not very wide, they haven't reached much farther west yet, they're getting very warm, the temperature levels are. So that's where we're watching for that El Nino to come into play when it comes to hurricane season. And look who's here. Chief Meteorologist James Zahara.
How you doing?
Good morning.
What are you
How
talking
are you?
about here?
We're talking about El Nino coming
Oh,
in.
El Nino.
Yes.
Yes.
Which, if you hate winter, it's good news,
Yes,
right?
that's right. Oh, you had to bring up winter.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
I was like, can I give you my snowfall forecast right now? 5 inches.
I don't know. Yeah, I know. We have been doing very well with all our predictions of these past few years. So
Oh, my
Morgan always
gosh.
seems to know exactly how much we're going to get. Unbelievable.
Crazy.
I'll let you do your thing, sir.
Oh, it's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, too. I got a school visit again. It's been really crazy around here.
Oh, my
for
gosh,
us.
yes.
One after another, after another, after another. So, but that's something we love to do
Yes.
and always look forward to.
And it keeps us young.
It really does, actually. It really does. You just hit it on the
Yes, otherwise you got to carry an encyclopedia. It's like, what did they say? What
I
word
know,
was that?
yes,
I don't know.
Why
Oh,
is that?
I tell you.
I'll let you do your
All right, it's good to see you. All right, yes. So El Nino will definitely have a big player, not only, of course, in our forecast, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, but the hurricane season as a whole. How does that impact hurricane season, though? I want to show you this. So obviously you have the warm water there in the eastern Pacific, but what happens is you actually get a lot more wind shear over the Gulf and also over the Atlantic. That wind shear, storms don't like that. Whether it's a tropical storm, a tropical depression, or a hurricane, the more wind shear, the more ripped apart that storm gets. So the stronger wind shear in that area should really promote a more quieter Atlantic hurricane season. There shouldn't be as many named storms, won't be as many likely hurricanes or major hurricanes. And that comes in line with the first forecast that we've already seen from our friends at Colorado State University. They're the first to put out the forecast. NOAA will follow here in a few weeks with their own forecast. But here's what Colorado State University is saying so far with their thoughts on the upcoming season. They're going with 13 named storms. On average, we see 14. They're thinking roughly 6 hurricanes, and on average, we see one more than that, 7. And then for major hurricanes, thinking 2 versus the average, that is 3. Now, last year's actual numbers, I put those in red on the right-hand side of your screen. You can see, generally speaking, similar to last year, but a little bit fewer in terms of those major hurricanes. So it's not to say that you can't have a landfalling hurricane along the Gulf or along the Southeast and the Atlantic, but the opportunity for this to be a blockbuster season with tons of named storms and tons of major hurricanes and things like that doesn't appear to be there. We're not getting that signal that it's going to be an extremely active hurricane season. So that is some welcome news, especially for folks that are living in those areas, because we've had some active seasons around here lately that have caused billions and billions of dollars worth of damage. If we can avoid that, really, that would be very, very helpful, not only for those folks that live there, but think about your insurance rates. I think everybody's insurance rate has probably gone up in the last few years, and if we can get a quiet season, that kind of helps quell that a little bit more. So it really benefits everyone, not just the folks that are kind of in the zone of those storms, if you will. So there's some good news there. Again, we'll check back in with NOAA once they release their forecast. We should have that coming up in the next few weeks, and I expect, just like what Colorado said, that their numbers too are going to come in a little bit below average. There's nothing out there cooking right now. In fact, most of the Atlantic is filled with Saharan desert dust, which is a big deterrent to any tropical development as well. Hurricane season, by the way, will begin on June 1st, and it's already May 6th, so you know things are going to fly. That's what we talked about this week, and of course now we have plenty of time to answer your questions. I know you've got some. But first, before we get that, I think, Alec, do you have that video from the Monday storms ready to go? Kind of curious to see what you got. So this is from near Monmouth with the storms on Monday, and you can see some good dust being kicked up there. And we saw actually a lot of that over the weekend too, by the way, because the fields are just recently plowed with the planting season underway. Yeah, that's impressive. You could almost say, you know, looking at that, because it's rotating, I think you pretty much got a gustnado situation going on there. Because what you could see kind of early on in the video too, the bottom of these clouds from these thunderstorms that we had on Monday, they were much, much higher than what you would typically want to get tornado development. These were very, very high cloud bases. But that still doesn't mean that you could have a little circulation that tries to interact with the ground here. So I think, you know, looking at that, I see it rotating. And I think that's safe to say that you caught a gustnado there on video. And I actually saw a couple of other pictures too coming in from the Prophetstown and Erie area where that storm moved through. There could have also been a possible gustnado with that as well. So a gustnado, yes, it is a form of a tornado, but we're not fully attached to the cloud. You notice the tornado itself is what we call fully condensed. You can't see a solid rope coming down from the sky. You only see the circulation at the ground. So the gustnado kind of more interacting with some lower level features like a boundary in the area, which we did have a cold front moving through. So not exactly a full-fledged tornado, but it is a type of tornado. And if it gets strong enough, yeah, it can cause some minor damage for sure. But that's a cool video. Thanks for sending that our way. And if you ever see anything like that, and you can get a picture or video safely, of course, send it on in. That ground truth is always what we appreciate, especially as storms are rolling through, and it gives us a good idea of what's going on in your hometown, especially if the beast isn't nearby. Really, really helps us out big time. All right, now let's get to your questions, because I was really curious about that video. That was an awesome video, by the way. Good morning, Riley. It was so cool to meet you yesterday. Thank you again. I know our new meteorologist is going to love that little welcome package that you put together. So excited to hand that off to him here in a few weeks when he arrives. And just a phenomenal visit. You and your mom, your whole family, amazing people. I was so tickled to death that you were just standing there by the door waiting for me. And oh my gosh, it just totally made my day. And anytime I have a bad day, I'm just going to reach back into that experience and just remember that, and it'll instantly make me smile. The card you wrote me to was just amazing. I showed it to Marcus as soon as he got home from work last night, and he said, this is the sweetest thing. So thank you so much. That was so, so nice. And that will be a card that I definitely hold very close to me and will be keeping forever. Thank you. So nice to meet you yesterday. Billy, good morning to you. Glad to have you with us this morning. You have a weather joke for once. Okay, let's see what you got here. The question is, why was the weather report always so happy? Answer is, it had a sunny disposition. I like that. I like that. To your question, can the low-level jet help a tropical system become extratropical? Thank you for your time, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day. So, great question. So let's review really quickly. If you don't know what the low-level jet is, that is a jet stream that usually forms late at night, often in the central part of the U.S., including, yes, right here in the Quad Cities. It's just above the ground. It is an area of very strong winds. And again, very close to the ground, but we don't feel those here. So when you're talking about any kind of a hurricane or a tropical storm interacting with that, by the time it's able to do that, it is likely already gone past its tropical stage, because those are two different, totally different systems. You have a tropical system which has a warm core all throughout, from top to bottom. That whole atmosphere is warm and it's wet. With a typical storm system that we see here in the Midwest, those are cold core systems. They are warm at the bottom and then cold at the top. So in order for those two things to interact, by that point, it'd be far enough inland where it would be working as a traditional area of low pressure or a post-tropical storm system. But great question. Great question. All right, Chris is wondering, why does it seem that on different TV stations and different weather apps, the forecasts are not the same? Does it mean different sources of information? So how that works is forecasting involves not just looking at computer data and picking a number that the computer spits out, but forecasting relies a lot on your gut instinct. That's why you'll never see a forecast that's the same. I mean, even look at today's forecast. You could take a picture of my 8-day this morning, go to James's 8-day tonight. They're going to be close, but the numbers likely are not going to be the same. And that is because there's a very personal aspect when it comes to forecasting. We're reaching in and leaning on our personal experience, what we believe is going to happen. And not everyone is going to have the same opinion. I mean, just look at a Facebook page and get in the comments section. You can see a whole differentiation of opinions with that. But most of the time, you're going to see that we're fairly close in numbers. Sometimes we'll be a little bit further away. It all depends on one's personal experience. Because again, we're not just reaching into a computer and saying, oh, I'm going to go with this number. I like this number. What we're doing is we're taking a whole host of computer models, a dozen or so, and then we're reaching kind of into ourselves and saying, all right, which one do you think is going to be the good one? And does it need a little bit of massaging, that data, need a little bit of working with? So good question. Very good question. And yeah, it's so nice to see James popping in here. We don't get to see him very often because we're in those separate shifts. Let's see. Kayla has a joke. What is a meteorologist's favorite song? Here Comes the Sun. Do-do-do-do. Such a good song. So good. Oh, Riley, you just missed him. I'll have to tell him when he comes back. Chris, based off the other day's storm with all the lightning, with El Nino this summer, is there a chance to see more lightning storms or warnings? I've been in a lightning storm warning before, and it was crazy. Yeah, the lightning can get pretty crazy around here. What I want you to remember, though, is in order to get crazy, crazy lightning, you need a storm that is very efficient at producing hail. In the next couple of months, we're going to be getting into some really warm periods. And if the polar vortex remains as weak as it is right now, there's a good chance that we're going to continue to see some of these active thunderstorms move through. And if we can keep that colder than usual air in the upper level of the atmosphere, that means it's going to be easier for hail to be produced as these thunderstorms reach up into that colder air. So yes, Chris, I think there's a good chance we're going to see more of those lightning-filled storms as we head into the summer. I'll say, though, I'm enjoying the break that we've had so far. We've just had so many storms. It's nice to actually take a breather for once. We've got perfect timing to end it right here. I've got all your questions answered there in the chat. If you think of one outside of the time that we usually meet every week, just head over to WQAD.com, hit the weather tab, ask Andrew. You can submit the form there, and it'll come my way. I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. Looking forward to seeing you a little bit later here this morning. We have GMQC at 11 coming up next. If I don't see you then, I'll certainly see you back here bright and early tomorrow morning for GMQC. Make a great Wednesday.